The sky turned red on a Tuesday morning in April. No one knew why at first. People pointed their phones upward, recording the strange light that washed over cities and farms alike. News channels interrupted their programs with special reports, but no one had answers, only questions. Frank Winters stood on the observation deck of Luna Base, the international moon station where he had worked for the past 3 years. Through the reinforced glass windows he watched Earth, his home, changing color before his eyes. "Commander, you need to see this," called Susan Boyd, the communications officer. Her voice shook slightly. Frank moved to her station, where multiple screens showed different views of Earth. New objects had appeared in orbit. Large, dark shapes that reflected no light. They weren't satellites or debris. They moved with purpose. "Are those—" Frank couldn't finish the sentence. "Ships," Susan confirmed. 17 of them, positioned over major population centers. Frank grabbed the microphone. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill." The 12 crew members of Luna Base rushed to their positions. They had trained for disasters, but not for this. Not for visitors from beyond Earth. Lisa Park, the base's astronomer, enhanced the images. The ships were massive, each one at least a mile long. Their surfaces looked almost organic, with ridges and curves unlike any human vessel. "They're deploying something," Lisa said, pointing to smaller objects leaving the ships. "Entering the atmosphere now." Frank tried to contact Earth, but communications were already breaking down. The last message they received was from the International Space Agency headquarters in Geneva. "Unknown craft releasing aerosol substance over cities, reports of mass." Then silence. Through their telescopes, the Luna Base crew watched as a fine mist spread beneath the alien ships. It drifted down like fog, covering New York, London, Beijing, Moscow, and other major cities. Then the screens monitoring Earth's communication networks began to go dark, one by one. "What's happening?" asked Kevin Reese, the youngest crew member. Frank had no answer. They could only watch. In Pinewood, a small town in Montana far from any major city, Samantha Miller was driving her pickup truck back from the grocery store when the emergency broadcast system activated on her radio. "This is not a test. Stay indoors. Close all windows and doors. Do not go outside until further notice. Unknown airborne substance detected in major cities. Casualties reported." The broadcast cut off. Samantha tried other stations but found only static. Her phone showed no service. She pressed the accelerator harder, racing down the empty country road toward home. Her younger brother Paul was alone. There. Their parents had died 2 years ago in a car accident, leaving Samantha as Paul's guardian. When she reached their farmhouse, Paul was standing on the porch, looking at the sky. "Get inside," she shouted, grabbing the groceries. "Sam, look." Paul pointed upward. The sky above them had a pinkish tint, but not the deep red reported in the cities. Whatever was happening seemed to be affecting them less, at least for now. Once, inside, they turned on the television. Most channels were offline, but one local station was still broadcasting. The images made Samantha's blood run cold. People were collapsing in streets. Hospitals were overflowing. The reporter, who looked terrified, explained that a neurotoxin was spreading through major population centers. Millions were already dead or dying. The president was about to address the nation when the White House feed went dark, the reporter said. "The military has lost contact with most of its commands. We are—" The reporter pressed his hand to his earpiece, listened, then looked directly into the camera. "We've just received reports of—" "The station went off air. What do we do?" Paul asked. He was 17, tall and lanky, his face pale with fear. "We wait," Samantha said, though she felt anything but calm. "And we prepare." Dr. Alan Gregory worked in a research facility built into a mountain in Colorado. The facility was designed to continue functioning even in case of nuclear war. As reports of the disaster spread, the facility went into lockdown. Alan was a neurobiologist who specialized in rare genetic conditions. He watched the limited footage available showing people collapsing as the strange mist touched them. Some died immediately. Others experienced seizures before falling unconscious. But there were exceptions. In several videos, certain individuals seemed unaffected. They moved through the mist, helping others seemingly immune. Interesting, Alan muttered, rewinding one clip. A woman walked through a cloud of mist completely fine, while others around her fell. He began analyzing the limited data coming in. The substance appeared to target the central nervous system, specifically a region of the brainstem. But why were some people immune? Alan pulled up the human genome database and started searching for variations in genes related to nervous system development. 3 days after the ships appeared, they landed. Frank and the Luna base crew watched helplessly as smaller craft left the motherships and descended to Earth's surface. They established positions in cities now silent and still. The crew had lost all direct communication with Earth, but they could still observe. They took turns at the telescopes, documenting everything they saw. "They're setting up structures," Lisa reported after her observation shift. "In Central Park, Trafalgar Square, the Forbidden City, they look like processing centers." Frank nodded grimly. "What about the people?" "The ones who survived are being rounded up. They seem compliant, like they can't resist." Frank made a decision. "We need to find a way to communicate with anyone left on Earth who might be fighting back. Susan, try the old military frequencies. Kevin, see if you can boost our signal strength." "What good will it do?" Kevin asked. "We're stuck up here. We can't help them." "We can observe," Frank said firmly. "We can gather intelligence. And maybe, just maybe, we can find a weakness in these invaders." In Pinewood, Samantha and Paul realized something strange. Neither of them had shown any symptoms, despite the faint pinkish tint that had spread through their area. The same was true for about 30 others in their town of 500. The rest had either died or fallen into a strange trance-like state, where they followed simple commands but showed no will of their own. "Why aren't we affected?" Paul asked, as they ate dinner by candlelight, having decided not to use electricity to avoid drawing attention. "I don't know," Samantha admitted. "But we might be the only ones who can do something about this." Their neighbor, Bill Johnson, knocked on their door later that night. He was one of the unaffected. "Military's gone," he said without preamble. "Government too, as far as I can tell. But I picked up a transmission on my ham radio. There are others like us. Immune. They're gathering in safe zones away from those things." "What things?" Samantha asked. "The aliens," Bill said bluntly. "That's what they are, and they're taking over." In his lab, Alan Gregory worked without rest. He had identified a gene sequence that seemed to explain the immunity, a natural mutation present in approximately 2% of humans. The alien toxin was precisely targeted at human biology, but this small percentage had a variation that rendered the toxin ineffective. It wasn't a cure, but it was information. Valuable information. Now he just needed to find a way to share it. Outside, he could hear strange noises as the invaders established their presence. He knew his isolation wouldn't last forever. He had to work quickly. Humanity was on the brink. Millions dead. Governments fallen. The planet silent. But not everyone was gone. Not everyone had given up. The invasion had begun. But so had the resistance. 3 weeks passed since the ships arrived. The world had changed completely. Lisa Jenkins tied a bandana over her nose and mouth as she moved through the empty streets of Chicago. Once home to millions, the city now felt like a ghost town. Most people were either dead or under alien control. Lisa had been a medic in the army before the invasion. Now she used those skills to help other immune survivors. She carried a backpack full of supplies she had gathered from abandoned stores and homes. She ducked into an alley as a patrol passed by. The aliens walked on 2 legs but looked nothing like humans. They had hard outer shells like insects and 4 arms. Their heads were small with multiple eyes that glowed green in the dark. Lisa called them bugs in her mind, though they were much larger and more frightening than any bug she had ever seen. Behind the aliens walked humans with blank expressions. These were the empties, as Lisa's group called them. People who had survived the toxin but lost their minds to it. They now served the aliens, following simple commands. When the patrol passed, Lisa continued to her destination, an old subway maintenance tunnel where 23 immune survivors had created a hidden base. "I found more antibiotics," she announced, as she entered the dimly lit space. People looked up from various tasks, fixing equipment, organizing supplies, studying maps of the city. Greg Adams, a former bus driver who had become their unofficial leader, nodded in approval. "Good work. Any trouble out there?" "More patrols than yesterday," Lisa reported, "and they're setting up some kind of equipment in Grant Park." "We've seen the same thing in other neighborhoods," said Mary White, who had been a college student. Before the world ended, she pointed to marks on a large city map. "They're building something, but we don't know what." "Any word from the other groups?" Lisa asked. Greg nodded. "Detroit managed to get a radio working. They have 31 immune survivors there. Indianapolis has 27. A small smile formed on Lisa's lips. They weren't alone. On the west coast, John Carter crouched on a rooftop watching the alien processing center through binoculars. Before the invasion, he had been a police detective in San Francisco. Now he led 58 immune survivors who had gathered in the city. "They're bringing in more empties," said Rita Baker, who lay on the roof beside him. She had been a nurse at San Francisco General Hospital. John focused his binoculars on the lines of blank-faced humans entering the large structure the aliens had built in Golden Gate Park. They brought in hundreds every day, but fewer came out. "What are they doing with them all?" Rita whispered. "I'm going to find out," John said. He had been planning this for days. "Tonight, I need 5 volunteers." Back at their hideout in an abandoned office building, John outlined his plan. They would infiltrate the processing center under cover of darkness. The aliens seemed to have poor night vision and relied on the empties to watch for threats, but the empties were slow and unobservant. "It's risky," said Peter Wilson, who had been a city engineer. "But we need to know what they're after. They're not just conquering us. They want something specific." Later that night, John led his small team through the silent city. They wore dark clothes and moved quietly, avoiding the occasional patrol. When they reached the processing center, they found a way in through a maintenance door that the aliens had overlooked. Inside, they moved carefully through dark corridors, hiding whenever empties or aliens passed by. In the center of the facility, they found something unexpected. It wasn't a prison or a death camp as they had feared. It was a mine. The aliens had dug deep beneath the park and were extracting something from the ground. Human empties operated equipment under alien supervision, bringing up dark, shiny rocks from below. "What is that?" Rita whispered. Peter examined the material from a distance. "Some kind of mineral. Not gold or anything I recognize." John noticed something else. The rocks seemed to glow faintly when touched by living hands. Human or alien. But the glow faded quickly when set down. "Whatever it is, this is why they're here," John said. "They're mining our planet." As they watched, an alien supervisor approached a large container filled with the mineral. It placed a device against the container, and energy flowed visibly from the rocks into the device. The alien's eyes glowed brighter. "It's a power source," John realized. "They're using it for energy." They retreated carefully, taking samples of the mineral when possible. This discovery could be important. If the aliens needed this specific mineral, it might explain why they kept humans alive as workers instead of wiping everyone out. It also might be a weakness they could exploit. In his Colorado lab, Dr. Alan Gregory worked day and night. He had managed to isolate the compound that made some humans immune to the alien toxin. It was a protein variant created by a specific gene mutation. "If only I could share this information," he said to himself. His facility had been designed to withstand attacks, but it was also isolated. He had no way to contact other survivors. Then one day, his radio equipment picked up a weak signal. Someone was broadcasting on an old military frequency that hadn't been used in years. "To any immune humans receiving this message," the voice said through static, This is Commander Frank Winters broadcasting from Luna Base. We are observing alien activities from orbit. If you can hear this, please respond. Alan rushed to the transmitter. This is Dr. Alan Gregory at the Colorado Neuroscience Facility. I receive you, Luna Base. After a moment of silence, the voice responded. Dr. Gregory, we thought everyone was gone. What's your situation? I'm alone here, but I've made discoveries about the toxin and immunity. Approximately 2% of humans have a natural genetic mutation that protects them from the alien neurotoxin. The aliens seem to be targeting a specific brain pathway that this mutation alters. Can you develop a treatment for the affected? Frank asked. Not yet, Alan admitted. But this information might help survivors understand why they're immune and find others like them. We'll broadcast your findings on all frequencies, Frank promised. Luna Base has been observing alien movements. They've established mining operations globally, focused on coastal regions and major geological fault lines. For the first time since the invasion, Alan felt hope. They weren't just surviving day to day anymore. Knowledge was being shared. Plans could be made. In Montana, Samantha Miller's group had grown to 43 immune survivors. They had taken over a small town and fortified it against alien patrols. When they picked up the broadcast from Luna Base sharing Dr. Gregory's findings, Samantha called everyone together. This confirms what we suspected, she told the group. We're immune because of our genes, and we're not alone. There are others out there, organized, fighting back. Paul, who had become skilled at setting traps for alien patrols, spoke up. We should try to contact other groups, maybe even find this doctor. Samantha nodded. The broadcast mentioned resistance cells in major cities. If we can establish communications, maybe we can coordinate. For the first time in weeks, people smiled. Humans might be down, but they weren't out. Not by a long shot. The resistance was growing stronger. And somewhere in all that fear and chaos, hope was beginning to take root. 6 months had passed since the day the sky turned red. Seasons changed, but the alien occupation remained. Yet something else was changing too. The human resistance was growing stronger. Dr. Alan Gregory peered through his microscope in the Colorado facility. What he saw amazed him. He had captured an alien parasite, a small worm-like creature removed from a dead alien soldier during a rare successful resistance attack. Fascinating, he muttered as he adjusted the focus. The parasite had a complex nervous system unlike anything on Earth. He had noticed something odd about the aliens during his research. They seemed to be two creatures in one, a large insect-like host and a smaller parasite attached to its brainstem. Alan carefully placed the parasite in a sealed container and exposed it to different stimuli. It reacted strongly to certain sound, frequencies, writhing as if in pain. He reached for his radio. Luna Base, this is Dr. Gregory. I've made a discovery about our invaders. They're not one species. They're two. Frank Winters' voice crackled back. Explain, Doctor. The creatures we see, the bugs as everyone calls them, are just hosts. The real invaders are parasites that control them, and these parasites are vulnerable to specific sound frequencies. There was a pause before Frank responded. This could be the weakness we've been looking for. I'll share this with the resistance cells. Frank turned to his crew after ending the transmission. Luna Base had become the communication hub for Earth's scattered resistance groups. Using their unique position, they had mapped alien movements and installations across the planet. Look at this pattern, Frank said, pointing to their digital map of Earth. Red dots marked alien ships and bases. They move like a hive mind, all coordinated. If the parasites control the hosts, they must also communicate with each other somehow. Lisa Park, the astronomer, studied the pattern. You're right. Their ships always maintain specific distances from each other. It's like a giant network. If we could disrupt that network, Frank began. We might break their control. Lisa finished his thought. For the first time since the invasion, the crew of Luna Base felt real hope. In Boston, Professor William Porter worked in the basement lab of his university. Before the invasion, he had studied animal communication. Now he studied aliens. William had managed to capture a dead alien soldier during a patrol ambush. His team had brought it to his lab for examination. What he found matched Dr. Gregory's discovery that was now being shared among resistance groups. Alien had a parasite attached to its brainstem. William carefully removed it and studied its structure. He noticed tiny organs that seemed designed to emit and receive signals. They communicate through some kind of frequency, he told his small team of fellow immune scientists. That's how they maintain control of their hosts and coordinate with each other. He began testing different sound frequencies on the dead parasite, measuring any reactions. Nothing happened until he reached a very specific high frequency. The parasite's tissues vibrated unnaturally. That's it, William said excitedly. That frequency disrupts their biology somehow. His assistant, Kate Parsons, looked thoughtful. Remember last month when we ambushed that patrol near the factory? The aliens seemed confused when the machinery started up. The factory equipment might have accidentally produced frequencies in that range, William realized. We need to build devices that can generate this exact frequency. It could be a weapon against them. Meanwhile, Samantha Miller led a scouting mission near the west coast. Her Montana group had made contact with other resistance cells and learned about strange alien activity in the Pacific Ocean. Samantha, Paul, and 3 others crouched on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Through binoculars, they watched alien ships, moving back and forth from a massive structure rising from the water about a mile offshore. What are they building? Paul wondered. Something big, Samantha replied. She sketched the structure in her notebook. It looked like an enormous tower with rings circling it from bottom to top. One of their team, Ben Adams, had been a construction engineer. He studied the structure through the binoculars. The design isn't like anything I've seen. It's not a weapon or a building in any normal sense. Could it be a communications tower? Asked Maria Jones, another team member. Maybe, Ben said. But why build it in the ocean? Whatever it is, we need to report it, Samantha decided. This isn't just mining. They're constructing something specific. As they watched, more alien ships arrived carrying large equipment and materials. The activity had increased in recent weeks. The aliens were working faster, as if racing against a deadline. I don't like this, Paul said. It feels like they're getting ready for something big. In Chicago, Lisa Jenkins and her group had grown bolder. After months of hiding and gathering information, they had begun striking back. Small attacks on alien patrols. Quick raids to free humans from processing centers. Today's mission was their most ambitious yet. Intelligence from other resistance cells suggested that a major alien communication hub was located in what had once been the Willis Tower. If we can capture it, we might be able to tap into their network, Greg Adams explained to the strike team. Learn their plans, maybe even listen to their communications. Lisa checked her weapon, a modified shotgun loaded with special shells containing metal scraps. They had discovered that the alien armor couldn't stop multiple small projectiles at once. Everyone clear on the plan? She asked the team of 12 volunteers. They nodded, faces serious but determined. They moved through the empty city streets as evening fell, avoiding patrols and cameras the aliens had set up. When they reached the tower, they split into 3 teams. Lisa led her group through a service entrance. Inside, they encountered light resistance, just 2 aliens and a few human empties guarding the lower floors. They quickly overcame them, careful not to harm the controlled humans. 3rd floor clear, Lisa reported through her radio. Moving up. On the 30th floor, they found what they were looking for. A room filled with alien technology. Strange. Devices pulsed with energy, connected to what looked like a living organic mass that spread across the walls. Hold this position, Lisa ordered as her team secured the room. Don't touch anything yet. When all 3 teams confirmed the building was secure, they began examining the communication hub. No one understood the alien technology, but they had brought equipment to record and analyze everything. As they worked, one of the devices suddenly activated on its own. A holographic display appeared showing images from across the planet. Processing centers, mining operations, construction projects like the one Samantha's team had observed in the Pacific. "It's their network," Greg whispered in awe. "We're seeing everything they're doing." Lisa stared at the display, her heart racing. "Can we understand their communications?" Another team member, a former computer programmer named Don Wright, connected their equipment to the alien devices. "Give me time. Maybe we can translate something." Hours passed as they worked. Finally, Don looked up, his face pale. "I've managed to interpret some of their data patterns. It's not good." "What are they planning?" Lisa asked. "Earth isn't the first world they've conquered," Don explained. "They've done this before many times. They mine special minerals, build these structures, and then..." He hesitated. "Then what?" Greg pressed. "They open some kind of gateway, a door between dimensions or something. The data mentions the Great Joining and Final Phase. Whatever they're building in the Pacific, it's the key to everything." Lisa looked at the holographic display again, seeing it with new eyes. The scattered resistance groups had thought they were fighting to take back their planet. Now she understood the truth was much worse. They were fighting to save it from something even more terrible than invasion. The resistance cells across the planet began to work together like never before. The discovery of the aliens' dimensional gateway plan changed everything. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to prevent something even worse from happening. Representatives from major resistance groups gathered in an old bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains. They came from different cities and backgrounds, but all shared the same goal. "We need to coordinate our efforts," said Lisa Jenkins, who had traveled from Chicago with Greg Adams. She pointed to a map showing the locations of resistance cells. "We're stronger together than apart." John Carter from San Francisco nodded. "My team has developed weapons that can penetrate their armor. We can share the designs with all of you. And we've been manufacturing sonic disruptors based on Professor Porter's research," said William Porter himself, who had come from Boston. "They can incapacitate the parasites controlling the alien hosts." Dr. Alan Gregory presented his latest findings. "I've made progress on a biological agent that might separate the parasites from their hosts without killing either. If we could free the host species, they might even help us." Frank Winters joined the meeting via radio from Luna Base. "We've completed our analysis of their communication patterns. There are 5 main control nodes around the world that maintain their network. If we could hit all 5 simultaneously, it would throw their forces into chaos." Samantha Miller, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "That would give us the opening we need to target the Pacific structure." She showed everyone the sketches and photos her team had taken. "Whatever this gateway is, it's the heart of their plan. It must be destroyed." The discussion continued for hours as they formed a plan. It would require perfect timing and coordination, but if successful, it might save Earth. They called it Operation Answer, humanity's answer to the alien threat. As the meeting concluded, Lisa pulled Samantha aside. "Are you sure your team can get close enough to the Pacific structure? It's heavily guarded." Samantha's face was determined. "We have to try. If that gateway opens, nothing else we do will matter." On Luna Base, Frank Winters gathered his crew for a solemn announcement. "I've been in contact with the leaders of the global resistance," he began. "They've formulated a plan to strike at the alien network and destroy the Pacific Gateway, but they need our help." The crew listened attentively as Frank explained his idea. The aliens had a command ship that orbited the moon once every month. It maintained the planetary shield that prevented Earth-to-space communication, except through the gaps that Luna Base exploited. If we could disable that ship, the shield would fall temporarily. Earth's old satellite network could be reactivated, giving the resistance real-time coordination abilities they don't currently have. "How do we disable a ship that size?" asked Kevin Reese. "We have no weapons." Frank took a deep breath. "We use Luna Base itself. We detach from our foundation and use our thrusters to put ourselves on a collision course with the command ship when it makes its approach." Silence fell over the room as everyone understood what he was suggesting. "That would be a one-way trip," Lisa Park said quietly. Frank nodded. Yes. I'm not ordering anyone to do this. It has to be voluntary. One by one, the crew members raised their hands. All 12 of them. They had watched Earth fall. Now they would do whatever it took to help take it back. When does the ship make its next approach? Susan Boyd asked. In 10 days, Frank replied. That's when Operation Answer begins. In his lab, Dr. Gregory worked frantically to perfect his biological agent. The formula was complex, designed to break the neural connection between parasite and host without harming either. He tested it on the captured parasite, watching through his microscope as the tiny organism's control filaments retracted. It was working, but he needed to make sure it would work on a living host. The question was how to deliver it. Aerosol, he muttered to himself. Just like they used on us. He began designing a delivery system that could spread the agent through the air at processing centers and alien bases. If it worked, some of the aliens might become allies against their former controllers. Carol Murray led the weapons development team in Detroit. She had been an engineer before the invasion, specializing in electromagnetic systems. Now she applied that knowledge to fighting aliens. Their armor uses some kind of electromagnetic field technology, she explained to her team as they assembled. New weapons. Our projectiles disrupt that field just long enough to penetrate. The new guns weren't fancy, but they were effective. Simple, reliable, and deadly to aliens. Her team had manufactured hundreds already, which were being distributed to resistance cells across the country. We have enough for the major assault teams, her assistant Joe Fisher reported. But not much ammunition to spare. Make every shot count, Carol told the fighters receiving the weapons. Hit them where the parasite connects to the host, at the base of the skull. Samantha and Paul Miller infiltrated an alien processing center near the West Coast. Disguised in clothes taken from empties, they moved cautiously through the facility. Their mission was to gather intelligence on the security around the Pacific structure. What they found shocked them. The processing center wasn't just controlling humans, it was harvesting them. Thousands of people in stasis chambers, connected to machines that extracted something from their brains. What are they doing? Paul whispered, horrified. Samantha checked a nearby control panel, using translation notes provided by Don Wright from the Chicago team. They're extracting an enzyme from human brains, something we produce naturally that they need. For what? The gateway, Samantha realized. This enzyme must be the final component they need. They carefully downloaded data from the alien systems and planted small explosive charges in key locations. As they prepared to leave, Paul noticed a schedule on one of the screens. Sam, look at this, he said urgently. According to these delivery schedules, they're planning to activate the gateway in less than 2 weeks. Samantha's blood ran cold. That's sooner than we thought. We need to warn the others. They slipped out of the facility and transmitted their findings to the Resistance headquarters. The timetable for Operation Answer would have to be accelerated. They had days, not weeks, to save their world. In Resistance bases across the globe, fighters prepared for the most important battle in human history. They cleaned weapons, studied maps, and practiced their roles in the coordinated attack. Lisa Jenkins reviewed the plan with her Chicago team. When Luna Base takes out the command ship, we strike the control node here. She pointed to a location on the map. John's team hits the one in San Francisco. Similar teams will strike the nodes in London, Beijing, and Sydney simultaneously. And if we succeed, asked Mary White. Then Samantha's team launches their assault on the Pacific Gateway, Greg explained. With the alien network in chaos, they'll have a chance to destroy it before it activates. Lisa looked at the faces around her, people who had survived the initial attack, who had lost everything but still fought on. They were tired, scared, but determined. We may not all make it, she said honestly. But what we're doing matters. Not just for us, but for every world these parasites might target. Next, Mary nodded. Humanity's answer, the others echoed. The final countdown had begun. The day of humanity's answer dawned clear and quiet. Across the globe, resistance fighters moved into position. Radio operators counted down the hours, then minutes. Everyone knew their role in the plan. Everyone understood what was at stake. Luna Base. Frank Winters made his final check of the station's systems. They had diverted all power to the thrusters and navigation controls. Everything non-essential was shut down. The crew had said their goodbyes to Earth and to each other. Now they waited for the alien command ship to appear. "Contact in 5 minutes," Susan Boyd reported from her station. "It's following the same path as last month." Frank nodded and opened the communication channel to Earth. "All teams, this is Luna Base. Operation begins in 5 minutes. Prepare for shield disruption." Across the radio network, resistance leaders acknowledged. In Chicago, Lisa Jenkins and her team moved through underground tunnels toward the control node. In San Francisco, John Carter led his fighters toward their target. Similar teams approached nodes in London, Beijing, and Sydney. On the West Coast, Samantha Miller's team prepared boats and underwater gear. They would approach the Pacific structure from below once the alien network was disrupted. The explosives they carried had been designed by Carol Murray specifically to target the gateway's power core. Frank watched the large alien ship move into position above the dark side of the moon. It was time. "All systems go," he announced to his crew. "Detaching from Foundation in 3, 2, 1. Luna Base shuddered as it broke free from its moorings. The thrusters fired, pushing the station toward the command ship. At first, the aliens didn't react, perhaps not believing that humans would sacrifice themselves so completely. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. Luna Base slammed into the command ship at full speed. The explosion was silent in the vacuum of space, but the flash of light was visible from Earth. The planetary shield flickered and failed. "Shield is down," came the report from resistance monitoring stations. "Satellites coming online now." In orbit, dormant satellites that had been waiting for this moment suddenly activated, connecting resistance groups with real-time information for the first time since the invasion. "All teams go," Lisa ordered through her radio. "Hit the nodes now." The 5 strike teams launched their coordinated attacks. The aliens, confused by the loss of their command ship, responded slowly. For the first time, their perfect coordination was broken. In Chicago, Lisa's team fought their way to the control node. The new weapons worked just as Carol had promised, penetrating alien armor. The sonic disruptors from Professor Porter disoriented the parasites, making the alien soldiers clumsy and confused. Lisa reached the heart of the node, a pulsing organic mass connected to alien technology. She planted the specially designed explosives and set the timer. "Chicago node set to blow in 3 minutes," she reported. "Fall back." Similar reports came in from the other teams. London. Charges set. Beijing. Target secured. Sydney. Ready to detonate. In San Francisco, John's team encountered heavier resistance, but eventually broke through. "San Francisco node ready," he reported, though his voice was strained. They had lost people in the fight. "Detonate on my mark," Lisa ordered when all teams were clear. 3, 2, 1, mark. 5 explosions rocked 5 cities simultaneously. The alien network collapsed. Across the planet, alien soldiers stumbled and fell, their coordination shattered. Some began fighting each other as if confused about who was friend or foe. "Phase 1 complete," Lisa reported to all teams. "Samantha, you're clear to move on the gateway." In the Pacific, Samantha and her team dove beneath the waves. The alien structure rose above them like an enormous tower, with rings circling it from bottom to top. Security around it was in chaos, just as planned. The aliens were responding to the attacks on their network, leaving the gateway vulnerable. Samantha's team placed breather masks over their faces and swam toward the base of the structure. Paul and 2 others carried the heavy explosives designed to destroy the power core. They entered through a maintenance access point. Inside, they moved quickly through corridors filled with confused aliens. Dr. Gregory's biological agent had been released in key locations around the world, and some aliens were already showing signs of parasite separation, fighting against their own kind. The team reached the central chamber where the power core hummed with energy. It was a massive crystalline structure filled with the glowing mineral the aliens had been mining, and with tubes containing a blue fluid, the enzyme harvested from human brains. Set the charges here, here, and here, Samantha instructed, pointing to key structural points. As they worked, a group of elite alien soldiers entered the chamber. Unlike the others, these weren't affected by the network disruption. They moved with purpose, weapons raised. A fierce battle erupted. Samantha's team fired their weapons, taking down several aliens, but they were outnumbered. 2 of their fighters fell. Paul was hit in the arm but continued placing explosives. "The timer's set," he shouted to Samantha. 5 minutes. Samantha fired her weapon at the approaching aliens, buying time. "Everyone out. Back to the exit point." More aliens poured into the chamber. The way out was blocked. "We're not going to make it," Paul realized, looking at Samantha. She nodded, understanding what had to be done. "Go," she told the remaining team members. "Find another way out. We'll hold them here." As the others searched for an escape route, Samantha and Paul took cover behind equipment, firing at any alien that approached the explosives. They were buying time with their lives, ensuring the charges wouldn't be discovered and disarmed. 3 minutes, Paul said, checking the timer. Samantha smiled at her brother. "Remember when we used to camp in the backyard and pretend we were fighting aliens?" Paul laughed despite everything. "Yeah, never thought we'd actually do it." "You know what, Paul? We won. No matter what happens next," humanity answered. The explosives detonated, destroying the power core. The explosion triggered a chain reaction that spread through the entire structure. The gateway collapsed, taking Samantha and Paul with it, but saving Earth from whatever horror waited on the other side. Across the planet, the remaining resistance fighters watched as a massive energy surge erupted from the Pacific. The alien structure crumbled and sank beneath the waves. Then, something unexpected happened. The aliens that had been affected by Dr. Gregory's agent began communicating with humans. Without the parasites controlling them, the host species was intelligent and peaceful. They had been victims too, the last survivors of their own conquered world. In the days that followed, humanity began to rebuild. The aliens who had been freed from parasitic control offered their knowledge and technology to help repair the damage they had unwillingly caused. Dr. Gregory worked with the aliens to revive humans still in stasis chambers. Carol Murray and Professor Porter studied alien technology to create new tools for reconstruction. Lisa Jenkins, standing on a rooftop in Chicago, watched the sun rise over a changed world. The sky was blue again, not red. People walked the streets below, working together to clear rubble and rebuild. "We did it, Frank," she whispered, looking up at the sky where Luna Base had once orbited. Humanity answered. In orbit, a small satellite built from parts salvaged from alien ships broadcast a message outward to the stars. It was a warning to the parasites, should any remain, and a promise to any other worlds they might threaten. Earth stands ready to answer the call again.